Hello everybody and welcome. It is Thursday, it's 2 o'clock, nearly 2 o'clock, 1:53, 7 minutes to go, so I can just natter for a little while before we begin. We got a lot to cover today, a lot of stuff to go over as the video macro week continues, month continues, well, week as well, first week. And we've got a lot to cover and a couple of announcements. I'll take care of those first. The competition is judged. The video is recorded. I just forgot to put it up this morning because I didn't go to bed till 3 o'clock in the morning because that's how long it took to finish it. But I'm finished with it and it's ready to go. And I was going to try to get it posted here in the last few moments before we started, but it didn't happen. But I promise, word of honor, Scouts honor. I told you what happened with me and the Scouts, right? Not very honorable. But anyway, I will get it up as soon as we get done here. It'll be the first thing I do. I will get it posted. And I can't actually see, well, I can now. It's the glasses. I see some finalists, and I can't see if the winner is here yet, but you'll know in a little bit. I'm not going to tell you who it is. I am going to tell you it was the hardest competition that we've done yet to judge. It was so full of brilliant photographs, clever, well executed. I am constantly in awe of the talent that we have amassed in you guys. And these pictures this month were just blew me away. And so much so that I couldn't use my usual formula because I was getting the same high scores for everybody. And I couldn't let everybody win. So I had to go through in 3 separate rounds and knock people out. Not physically, of course, just it was hard work. I even showed the pictures, the finalists, to Rick Littlefield the other night, and he looked at them and said, "Yep, you're on your own there." He said, "I don't know how you're going to pick the winner." So yeah, it was something, and you're going to really enjoy, I think, looking at all of the photographs. I feel terrible for the people who didn't get mentioned in this video because it was half of you. There were 100 pictures and 50 finalists. And yeah, I just had to concentrate on them. It was already an hour and 15 minutes long, which is crazy. And I spoke fast. So yeah, you'll see it. You'll see it today if you're interested. And the competition this month, we'll take a couple of minutes to talk about that, is actually not a photography competition. It's a video competition. It's the first time we've done it, and I'm really pumped about it because this video is a rabbit hole that is great fun to explore. And I've got several things to say about that coming up, but as far as the competition goes, your entry needs to be one entry, not like the 2 photographs, one entry, one clip, 10 seconds to 60 seconds. That's your range. I would recommend that you, not recommend, I insist that you keep your file size below 1 gigabyte. I have to check with Patrick, and I'm meeting with him tomorrow to make sure that we can even house clips that big on our site, on the app, or if I have to set up something over on my website. But either way, it's going to be, we'll figure something out. It's going to be 1 minute or less and 1 gigabyte or less. If you shoot a minute at 1080p in good quality, using compression, the same compression you use for YouTube, so that would be the codec is H264, and yeah, I can't remember. I think we have problems. Hang on a sec. Let me see. Well, I had to take the other camera down. I'm not sure if that call that was coming in was for me from one of the monitors or not. When the moderators ring my phone. It goes off right at the beginning of the program. So forgive me if that was not you. If it was you, send me a message. Sound and vision is okay, so that's not the problem. Okay, so it was just a phone call. I'll turn the darn thing off then. There we go. The reason I have this up here, you'll see in just a moment, is so that you can see what I'm doing. I think I've probably knocked it all out of alignment now because of that. That was, no, it's still fine. So, sorry about that. Every now and again, my phone will just ring, and it will be a telemarketer or something, and I'm in the middle of a live stream, and I assume something horrible has happened with the stream, but apparently not. So that's a relief. What were we talking about? The video. The codec H.264, use 1080p, shoot at 30 frames per second or 60 if you want. Just don't try and do it in 4K or anything like that. You may use cuts. You can use as many cuts as you want, actually, so long as the video stays under 60 seconds. You're allowed to put some kind of information, either a title screen or a credit screen at the end, anything like that to set the frame for your shot. Because obviously, it's a little hard to tell a story in 60 seconds if you don't have anything to introduce it or anything to follow it up. So you can put something in there, a few spoken words, whatever you'd like to do to tell the audience what they're getting ready to see, or give them some guidance. And then to wrap it up, if you want to say anything, then you can. I'm going to play them as they arrive. So don't put anything at the front or back that you don't want everybody to see. And make it tasteful. Yeah, you have to comply by the YouTube community standards. If you don't, I won't show the video and it won't count. That means you can't do things like set your hair on fire or just anything like that. Just don't do it. And what was the other thing I was going to say? No sweary words, please. I'm not allowed to use them, so you can't either. Is the story there. And what else? There was a couple of other things. I had some notes. I lost them in the mad rush here. But yeah, I think that's everything. The winning video is going to probably have something to do with what we do here, which is take pictures of little things. So this is not just a video competition. It's a macro video competition. The winning video is going to tell some kind of a story or part of a story, or it's going to tug at a heartstring, or it's going to make us laugh. So really think about this. Now, it's a huge ask to ask people who've never done video before to turn in a video to a competition where other people are going to see it. I get that. That is a big deal. So in order to make it a little easier for you, if you want, if there's enough interest, I'll do a private or a session, a Zoom session with anybody who's really into this and wants to give it a try but needs some help. I'll open up a live stream type thing, and we'll go through it. Editing, we're going to be covering editing later in the month, but probably not in enough time for you to become a good editor before the competition is due. So you might want to be looking into ways to get somebody to help you with that. We could talk about it. We could do it as early as next week. So yeah, we'll think about that. Another thing about video macro week, that's it for the competition, by the way. You can, there was one other thing. If you've shot video before and you have a clip that you want to submit and it wasn't shot for this competition, that's okay. It probably won't be in future video competitions, but we want to make this as easy as possible for everybody to submit something if they want to. And it doesn't have to be fancy. It really doesn't. If you film a dragonfly doing dragonfly stuff, that's fantastic, and I will bear in mind your level of experience with it if I know what that is. I want to encourage people to try this because it is so much fun. Talking about macro video, I have been putting together my macro video rig, and it's not very impressive because it's mostly bits that I use for other things that I've I'm in the process of making a camera base plate thing so that I can attach the rest of my equipment to it. And I've ordered a little monitor, that type of thing. But it's all looking pretty junky. I mean, in the nicest possible way, junky but good. And somebody said, "Well, don't you have friends over at Small Rig?" And I thought, "Well, yes, I do." And this is what they specialize in. So I got back in touch with Small Rig, and I'm going to see if they're interested in helping me out and getting some proper stuff so that we can... I'd love to show you what a good rig looks like, because for those of you who are planning on doing this and want to invest a few bucks in it, you want to see what the good stuff looks like and how it's put together. So what I thought I would do, if I can get Small Rig interested, is I'll put together a dream rig, and I'll do it in a live stream and show you everything, how to put it together, what you do with it, and so on and so forth. And that'll include battery packs and base plates and light arms and monitors, even probably a follow focus rig if we can get that arranged. So it's all in the works. But we've got the most important piece of gear, obviously. The thing that is going to make all the difference in the world is this. Our Laowa macro cine 100 T 2.9. What a lovely lens this is, and I've been using it more since we last talked on Tuesday, and it just keeps getting better and better. And today we're talking about lights, by the way, which is why you're going to see lighting stuff all over the table as we go along. But there was one other thing I think before we get to that, and that is Pazoom is this Saturday. If you are a member of Patreon, you get 2 hours of my time uninterrupted, except by you guys, and we will talk about whatever you want. I'll come prepared, and I am going to be talking some about video this weekend, but we'll also be getting caught up on people's various fancy rigs and talking about equipment and what we're doing for the winter, that type of stuff. So it's always fun, it's always lively, and it's always private. It's just for Patreon folks. So if you're a Patreon folk, please come on Saturday, 10 until noon, every other Saturday, and this is one of the every other Saturdays. Don't forget that if you are not a Patreon member and you want to come to Pazoom, all you have to do is change that and become a Patreon member. www.patreon.com/AllanWallsPhotography. And when you get there, there'll be directions on how you can become a member. And you become a member today, you come to Pazoom on Saturday and meet the gang. It's a good bunch of people. Okay, that's the deal. So that's this weekend. The next Pazoom is in 2 weeks. That's the thing. Every other week is 1 week on, 1 week off. And 2 weeks from now, the next Pazoom will be immediately followed by the Tangent and Chamfer show. The name will change probably, but that is going to be our 3D modeling, our 3D printing makers meeting for anybody who's interested, whether you've got a printer or not, whether you have a CAD program or not, doesn't matter what platform you use. If you just want to come and watch me be educated by Larry, who is our resident genius when it comes to everything engineering and 3D modeling, it's going to be fun, and we're going to learn a lot, and it's going to be something that you want to... If you have any interest at all in it, do come, because your interest will help shape what we do with it in the future. But the first one is in 2 weeks. It is at 12:30, so half an hour after the Pazoom ends, and it will be on Zoom. So it will be an actual interaction type thing. It won't be a live stream. You'll actually be part of the thing. Now, if you're a member of Discord, which you ought to be, if you're not, there'll be an invitation in the show description. You can go over there. I have started a new channel over there. It's called the Tangent and Chamfer Show. And over there is where you'll find announcements, dates, times. If we hand out assignments or give you projects to look at or work on, they'll be there. And that's going to be your point of contact. So Larry, I don't know if you're here, but I meant to tell you about that. I haven't told you about it yet, but it's over there. So Larry will probably go over there and write something in there as well. So are we good? Does everybody know what's going on? Let me see. Yeah, Bud's here, Alistair's here, Amy's here, and Super Chat Patrick is here, and he has left 20 CHFs. That's 20 Canadian half francs, or German Deutschmarks, whatever it is. It's several cups of coffee. Thank you very much, Patrick. You get a question with that, so ask away if you want to. I'm not allowed to look at the chat. I'm just looking at my Telegram. So we're talking today about lighting and planning a shoot, and we've timed it so that the lawn noise making team has just arrived. So I hope you can't hear them. You shouldn't be able to with this microphone. This is one of the 2 Samson CO2 microphones that were given to me for Christmas as a surprise, and boy, are they better sound than ever. I'm not going to say who gave them to me because he's one of the people who well, I will tell you. Thank you very much. And the reason I can't say any names right now is because of the competition. Bear with me, you'll understand. So, right, let's get on with it. Lighting. There are a bunch of things to consider when you're doing lighting for video. And we're talking primarily about video in the field. Some of you are probably going to be doing some video in the studio, in a controlled environment, maybe with an insect enclosure or something. That's different and complicated. We can get into it at some point, but we're going to be talking mostly about taking the camera, the gear, your tripod, everything outdoors to film stuff in nature. And presumably you're going to be using a macro lens, have some kind of a decent steady tripod to put it on. And what we need to discuss today is how we light our subjects. Now, because we're not in a studio and we don't have a fixed base of operations, a lot of the stuff that we do cannot be done with flash, especially obviously shooting video. You can't use flash, but even shooting stills in nature, you will often want to use continuous light because of things like subject movement. So what we're going to do is run through the various options you have for lighting a subject, point out a few of the potential pitfalls and what might influence your choice in lighting. And then I'll tell you at the end of this section what I prefer and how I like to light subjects when I'm shooting video in nature. So we'll get to that right now. The first option is really a non-option. I know people that use them. I see people out there using them. I just don't get it. I don't care for the light, but it's using these gizmos, ring lights. They come in big ring lights and smaller ring lights and much smaller than this. I've got about 15 of them. Most of them run off 5 volts, USB, so a battery pack of any type basically will power them. They put out, because most of them are really cheap, they put out a really cheap looking light that has all kinds of band gaps in it, and nothing looks natural under these. Now, obviously, I'm talking about these really cheap ones that I have here. I collect these from thrift shops, believe it or not. I get them because one day I'm going to figure out something you can do with them. Yeah, I've tried them out there with video. They're not bright enough. The light's all shooting off in the wrong direction, and they're just hard to use. Now, there are more expensive ones and smaller ones that fit around the lens that give a better, more even light. I don't have, well, I do actually. I have 2 of them. I don't use them because I'm not crazy about the catch lights. They didn't used to bother me, but the more I used them, the more I kind of got irritated by the circle catch lights in the eyes of insects close up. So ring lights, not a big favorite of mine, but they are one option. Of course, you can't use them without carrying a battery pack with you, though batteries We'll cover batteries actually today because that's a big issue. Whatever you're doing out there for video, you're going to need power, and quite a lot of it, because some of these new cameras burn through quite a bit of juice, so you'll almost always end up carrying a block of battery out there with you. LED panel lights. I use LED panel lights all day, every day, and I've got dozens of them. Most of them run off AC power. They have an adapter, but they're not designed for portable use. They're not, well, some of them are designed for portable use, but more in the studio portable use. Bigger panels draw a lot of current, burn through a lot of battery, and they're very cumbersome to use, and usually you have to set them up on stands. I'm more of a run and gun type person when it comes to the video, so I generally am not looking for something like that. Small panels, on the other hand, are, in my opinion, probably the best choice. They provide, here's a good example of one, probably my favorite one. It's certainly the one that I always reach for first. It's this RM75 from Small Rig. I've got several of these, 2 of them actually now, and several knockoffs. I don't use the knockoffs because they don't have the same even light and they aren't nearly as bright. These things are monster bright. I don't know if you can, well, you can't probably, it's probably just going to block the light out, but it is really, really bright. And they are controllable. You can change the color, the hue, the saturation, the intensity. They have all kinds of settings, including the crazy special effects, which don't make a whole lot of sense, but in video they might if you wanted to simulate lightning or something. But for just getting good, pure white light, these are fantastic, and they will render colors beautifully. They're small, they're compact. They have one thing about them that I'm not crazy about, and that is they have a powerful magnet in the base. Now, you'd think, well, that's handy if you want to stick it to the fridge or something. Well, it is. And if you have the fridge out there in the woods with you when you're shooting video, then that, I suppose, would be a handy thing to have. But honestly, it sticks to everything. It is such a powerful magnet that I'll frequently be looking for my keys and they'll be attached to the bottom of this light. So, yeah, it's a minor, silly point, but these things are hard to beat, and I've got this one attached to just a flexible arm. Normally, of course, I would attach it to a proper bendy arm, like a Small Rig bendy arm. These are the ones that if I can find where the camera is, yeah, there you go. These are the ones that I have 59 of, and everything gets attached with these. I've been using these for 10 years. I've got one that I broke by over tightening it, and Small Rig replaced that one for me. So there you go. These arms will never let you down. We're going to be needing these on the rig for sure. Let me see. What else was I going to say about using the panels? There are knockoff panels. Just be careful if you're going with. I know that some very successful photographers, our very own Allan, uses a different brand of LED light panel. Ulanzi, I think, is the name of it, and she swears by it. She says they're very good. I have used the small ones, but not the larger panels. I hear good things about them, and they are a little bit cheaper, I think. But definitely look for a panel that has a good reputation, and you won't find many people have anything bad to say about the RM75. They've come out with a bigger one too. I think it's the 110. Somebody in the audience will know, and probably has a couple of them, but they're quite a bit bigger, put out more light. Diffusing them is important. I'm going to talk about diffusion now, actually, and we'll cover that in only a couple of seconds, because it's really no different than diffusing flash. In fact, I use the exact same high-tech diffusion device I use with my flash. It's a piece of mylar, and this same panel the same size with the same bits of Gorilla Tape on it will simply wrap around the front, leaving a little bit of a gap and giving you something that looks a bit like this. The fact that you get separation when you do it like this, you get separation from the light source of 3 or 4 inches is a big deal, and it helps spread and soften the light. This is a must, and it's so easy to carry these little panels of plastic with you. You could use velour, the heavy tracing paper. You could use a double layer of tracing paper. One thing that is a little harder to do is to double diffuse these, but the small rig RM75 comes with a silicone sock, if you will. No, it's a little thing that you stretch over the top of the light, and it really does actually diffuse it quite a bit. So it's not a bad first layer, and then adding one of these on top, perfect. It's a little harder to shoot in nature with multiple lights the way I do in the studio with multiple flashes. So I do tend to use a little higher power than I would use in the studio and fewer lights. But still at least a couple. Even if I'm shooting in broad daylight, I'll have a couple of extra lights in case I need some fill. So soft boxes and fancy diffusers tend to get in the way and scare the insects, so I generally avoid the really big things, though everybody has their own preference there. So long as that you are eliminating as much of the specularity from your shots as you can, you're okay with whatever you want to use. One really very important tip to have in your back pocket is that when I'm out shooting video, I carry with me 2 things: a folding card, a folding white card, a reflector, and a little stack of reflection panels. I showed these when I was out there doing the Novaflex rail, the M rail, the Castell M, sorry. When I was out there doing that video, I had the bag of diffusers and reflectors with me, and those small squares of foam board, foam core, I think they're called, are fantastic. They're light, they're easy to carry around, and you can hold them up at different angles or have somebody else hold them up and bounce a little light onto your subject that way, so you don't have to set up the lights if all you need is a little fill. So that's one way to do it, and easy to carry around. Whenever you're taking lights out there, whatever light you're taking, you have to think ahead about how you're going to secure it. And one of the mistakes, I constantly do this, I'll grab the lights and I'll take them out with all the other equipment, and then realize that I don't have a spike or a clamp or anything to stand the light on, and it's frustrating. You end up having to hold it. So I recommend any bendy arm that you're comfortable with. The small rig, the shorter small rig, is really handy for this. It weighs a little less obtrusive. Probably the best thing, if you can get your hands on it, these I think they're made for video. They're by Small Rig as well. I pulled out all my Small Rig stuff to see what I could use on this project, and these things clamp like nobody's business. You could hang off of this thing and it's not going to bend when you tighten it up. So this is really good. The one that I got has 2 of the articulating sections. It takes anything you have a 1/4-20 thread for goes on the end, like the RM75 has a receptacle for this, but it has a screw point in the middle of the 2 bendy arms, so you can put this attached to your camera cage, for example, and have 2 lights that you can angle separately like that. Get it? You understood that before I had to do any of that, didn't you? But anyway, these are nice. They're a bit steep actually, or they were when they came out, but they're worth it if you're into that. Okay, another thing is clamps. Now, In the studio, indoors, the ultimate clamp for me is this mini super clamp by Small Rig. I use them for everything, but out in nature these can be a bit on the small side, so think ahead and maybe take something with a strap. Oftentimes I'll use trees for my lighting, and I have a quick release strap that's part of my camera bag actually, that I can attach to a tree and then attach this with a piece of aluminum screwed into it. It's a bit complicated, but it works. So think about that. How are you going to hold your lights, especially if you're out there by yourself? It's very important that your light be where you need it. So just having something that is going to allow the light to move or rock or fall over, not a good idea. It is sometimes, I'll see people using gels outdoors. I generally don't. I like to use the light that I get, though these days it's not hard to get nice pieces of fake gel. I use cellophane from a dollar store, the wrapping stuff. Get some red and get some blue and get some orange, and you've got everything you need. You can change the paint color quite convincingly. I just don't bother. If I want to shoot golden hour, I'll go out in the evening. If I want nice blue light, I'll go out in the morning, and so on. You know the way it is. So think about that. There are really the only other option would be taking photography lights out there with you, not strobes. Though I guess you could use your strobes in modeling mode, but my goodness, that you'd need 2 car batteries as well. I have some small LED spotlights. They are very, very bright. They also chew through electricity. You need a big battery for them to use them outside, but they would be one option. I have even used my light wands. I should have brought them in to show them to you. I've got one. I've got a miniature one. It's not actually a light wand. It's a toy. I found it at the thrift shop. And this thing is brilliant. Look at that. That will not light any insect videos, but it will be fun to play with in the dark, I think. So, yeah, there you go. That's that. I've been wanting to find a reason to show that thing off. It cost me $1. I can't turn it off. There we go. All right, so I've got the same thing, only big long ones that put out a bright white light. They are good for video. They go through the battery, so they're internally, the cells are internal, so you have to charge them. But if you plan ahead, and we're going to be talking about that in the second half today, you're planning, then those lights are good to have. Just don't leave them on; they'll run out. And the higher intensity LED lights that they're like a lighting head made to go on a light stand. You can take them outside, but for macro, they're overkill. It's too much light, and you have to have a light stand to hold them, and yeah, it's probably just unnecessary to drag them out there. Let me see. I think that's about it. There's really no other flashlights, and I consider the one that goes on this. What's it called? I forget. The little cube, lume cube. Yeah. That's just really a flashlight, and it has a very bright central spot. It tends to cause a lot of specular highlights. I've never got used to using it, and the diffuser really doesn't do anything. It does come out though, which is nice, I suppose. But yeah, it has purposes, but macro video is probably not one of them. Not for me. Now, you may have a completely different take on that and be very comfortable using these. In which case, great. And I'm glad that somebody is. But for me, I need something a little bit broader than that, and the RM75s do that. So that's it for lighting, and I would add one caveat to that, is that most of the time I'm trying to figure out how to use the light that I find when I get out there. I am going to go out this afternoon, but because of prior obligations of having to put a video up and a couple of other things, I probably will only have half an hour of light. And I will definitely be taking light with me just for that time at the end of the day when it gets a bit dark. That's when a couple of RM75s in your bag are a no-brainer. What do you use? Do you have have I not mentioned what your choice is? Leave a note, because I would like to see what people are using, because that may be something I want to incorporate into the rig that I'm building. So if you have an idea that I haven't thought of, let me know. If you're just using flashlights, by the way, and I see this too, people will take these little powerful flashlights. This one's a UV light, but you know what I mean. Stuff that looks like this, and shine it on the subject with clamps to hold it. That tends to be overly focused light as well, and unless you have a light that's really spread out. So I don't use them generally. So let me know what you use, and if I left your thing out, I'd be interested to hear. So in the second half, let me first of all see if there are any comments or questions, or particularly any differences of opinion when it comes to lighting, and then I'll get on to the second part of the chat. Oh, Patrick has a question. What is the meaning of life? Okay, well, I'll tell you what. It really doesn't have one. It doesn't have. It's to make videos. It's to make nature videos is the real meaning. I don't know. If you ask Siri, she'll tell you it's 47, I think, or 49. I can't remember. Didn't make any sense to me, so I forgot all about it. Between scraping your notes across the table, it comes through really loud. What does? Oh, beware of scraping my notes across the table. I'm sorry. I didn't realize I was doing that. I'll leave them alone completely. I won't touch them. That's interesting. I didn't think the microphone would get to my notes, because I'm a fidgeter. I do that all the time. Let me turn the page, and then I'll stop touching them altogether. There we go. I typed them out so I can actually see what I wrote, and I'll have to type them on a smaller card so I don't rustle. Okay, so no questions, no other choices. 42 is the meaning of life, by the way. Alistair tells me I was off by 5, which is probably why. Yeah, anyway. Don't have anything else in the way of lighting that I wanted to show you while we're talking about this. Somebody got in touch at the end of the last live stream and was asking about my tripod head, which is a modified studio camera clamp for clamping the camera to light poles and the like. And it was by Manfrotto Bogan, and I took it all apart and serviced it and cleaned it and put back together only the bits that I wanted on the tripod. So now I have a pan and tilt that really, really is smooth and works beautifully. The person was asking me what the original clamp was. So I found the pieces, and I'll show them to you, and then you can figure out what it originally was supposed to be. Well, I've lost part of it. Hang on, I clamped it to the thing. So it consisted of basically a tripod head on a gigantic full-size super clamp that fits on a very large light pole. So these are the other bits. This bit, which has just got a ring and teeth in it so that you can position it and then lock it in a rotational position by tightening it like that. This bit was attached to the clamp where those nuts are. So like that. Hang on, I'll hold it up. Like that. So this attaches to the indoor thing, and then the whole fluid head was on the top of this. And I took all of that off and mounted it on the tripod that I now am using. And it's an ancient tripod, but it's no more ancient than this. So the whole thing is gigantic and heavy, but it works beautifully, beautifully. So yeah, that was the only other question I think I had to clean up from Tuesday. If you cut a hole the size of a small flashlight in a ping pong ball, it can be easily mounted as a cheap diffuser. You can indeed. I have done this before, and I've done it in the studio as well as outdoors. It's a little bit close to the light. It doesn't diffuse the light super well, but yeah, if it's a small light, it's certainly better than not using diffusion. So good point. All right, let me see. Joseph, ask Allan if I can set a watch or a flower on fire. Yes, I'm not. Yeah, absolutely. I'm not against flame per se. It's just flame when you do dangerous things with it. So yeah, no, burning your watch or a flower would be fine. That's a good question. I think you've kind of spoiled the surprise a little bit, but there you go. Yeah, you can do that. Set up a custom ringtone for my moderators. I have one, but I can't remember what it is. So anytime it rings, I think, oh, that might be the moderators. Yeah. That's a personal problem. I need to probably practice listening to the special ringtone. But yeah, I do. I'll make it something more subtle too, and I'll do that. I'll do that today. All right. So I think we're good on the questions. We're all caught up. So let me move on to planning. This is the last thing I want to talk about in the general global discussion of macro video, and after this, we're going to get into some specifics. We're going to do one video on this lens. It's going to be an accompaniment to the actual review of this lens, which will be a full, formal, in-depth review of everything about the lens. That will be coming out right after the 25mm review. The short version of the 25mm review is it is a fantastic, great fun lens, and you absolutely need to get one. But when you get one, get a tripod and some flash to go with it, because you're going to need it. It's hard to use, period, because it's high magnification. It needs to be stabilized, and the stabilization in your camera is not going to be enough, not for consistent shots. But the review is coming out. That's why I'm going out today, is to shoot the last little bit of that and shoot some videos. So hopefully it won't be long. So when we talk about going out to shoot video, it's really not the same as going out to shoot macro pictures. It really isn't. Not for me, it isn't. There are several things I have to remember. So I have a checklist, which reminds me, the checklist for the indoor high magnification macro that I promised my supporters a couple of weeks ago. I just haven't had time with the holidays and everything to get it edited, but I have it on my list and I'm going to work on it hopefully this weekend. So for this, you need a plan. If you don't have a plan, and this is not something you're doing every day, you will, as often as not, get out there and be missing something that is crucial to your success. So I really recommend, at least in the beginning, I just did it, I moved the notes, I'm sorry. In the beginning stages, have a plan that's pretty thorough and in depth. And I'm going to give you 7 things to think about as you're getting ready to go out with your camera and your cine lens to shoot in nature. The first is decide ahead of time what you're going to photograph. You can go out with the camera and just take pictures of whatever you find, and it can be some of your best pictures. It seldom happens that way for video. You can do that, but it's a better plan to know that you're going to be going to location A to shoot beetles, because you know there are beetles there and you know how to find them, and so on and so forth, so that you can take the right equipment. And you don't want to take everything with you every time. So knowing what plants, what insects, or what elements in nature you want to photograph will help you pick the right equipment, pick the right time of day, go at the right time of year, choose the right weather, and so on. And you want to spend as little time as possible looking for your subject. That is a mistake we all make. I do this all the time. I'll grab my stuff because I'm so experienced and so good at what I do. I know that the insects will be where I'm going, and they are never there because I'm always wrong. So, thinking about it and planning it, and even scouting the location without a camera. And I do this all the time. When I go out for a walk, I will look for things, and I'll look in places. And when I found a boardwalk near here that is a jumping spider haven. It's where I go to look for jumping spiders. If you ask me to shoot some video of native jumping spiders today, that's the first place I'd go because I know where they are. So having that information, scouting the location ahead of time, just saves you time, and you need time, because one thing about macro video is it is time consuming to do well. Be aware of the weather forecast. This sounds silly, but let me tell you why it's a good idea. When I go out to shoot pictures, I always have in my camera bag a bag with a poncho in it, and I clip it to the back of my trousers, and it's just always there. If I get a downpour, I can throw it over the camera and run back to the car. In video, that is seldom possible. You usually have quite a lot of fairly expensive gear, and you don't want to be carrying umbrellas around and that type of thing, or get caught in a windstorm or a sandstorm or whatever is going on in your area. Know the weather forecast before you go and plan accordingly. I really can't recommend that highly enough. If it's going to be raining on and off where you're going, take some towels with you, and maybe take a folding umbrella or take a sheet of plastic. Just be aware of the situation you're going into, because you're not going to take pictures for 10 minutes. You'll be out there all afternoon. So plan ahead. Preparing your equipment, you need to make sure you're taking the right camera and lens, the right camera for the lens. Remember, a lot of video is shot on small sensor cameras. So if you have multiple cameras and have one that maybe you use your Fuji for video, make sure you aren't packing your Nikon lens to go on it. That type of thing. Just make sure that you have it straight what you're going to need for what you're going after. Same with your lighting gear. For me, that's pretty easy. It's a couple of these and my reflectors and diffusers, and I'm usually good to go. I cannot recommend more strongly that you also carry with you a battery pack. I'll come back to this, but the biggest one that you can carry comfortably that holds the biggest charge, so that you want the highest milliamp hours that you possibly can, and that will be good. Something that people hardly ever think about until they're out in the field is sound. When you're shooting video, having a way to record sound separate from the camera is a really important part of your planning. Now, you've seen me use all kinds of different audio outside, but remember, I'm mostly recording my voice, and I'm just trying to cover up the wind and be heard. When you're out there shooting video of something that makes noises, whatever it might be, you want a way to record the sound in relatively high fidelity. So think about packing your audio recorder. If you have just a little cheap Zoom 1 or something that you can stick in there, that's certainly better than the camera's recording. But your microphone, these microphones, the Samson CO2s that Robert gave me for Christmas, This is exactly what I would take out. I may get some heavier wind protection for it, but this would be a good one to take out. XLR mic goes directly into my Zoom recorder. So if you're going to be using sound, definitely make sure you've got all the right equipment. If you're not sure, take it anyway, because you can pack all of this into a small space. In fact, the microphones that Robert gave me came in a case, a hard shell case, both of them, so it will be easy to carry out in the field. All right, you are going to need a tripod or a ground pod or a bean bag or some combination. Make sure you have all of it. If your tripod comes with a cross arm and you hardly ever use the cross arm, it's a good idea to keep it, when it's in storage, keep that cross arm strapped to the leg or something so that you can always grab it together. I'm bad about getting out in the field with all my MF12s. I have MF12s that go in the field with me and others that stay here. And I'll have all the lights, they'll all be charged. I'll have the clippy things and the swivelly things at the end for taking them on and off. Everything will be there. And I will forget the ring that goes on the lens to mount the ring for the lights. You're completely sunk then. You have no way to attach them to anything. It's so frustrating. So think about all the support things you're going to need. If you're planning on using a stabilizer or a harness or something, make sure you've got all the parts and they're working. Timing and patience. Think about the light. Even though these trips tend to overlap with good light because they take so long, I mean, you're usually out there either at dawn or dusk. But think about it ahead of time and allow some time to practice your shots. We'll talk about this when we get into technique next week. But one of the key techniques and the thing that takes the most practice is coordinating your camera movement with your focusing and aperture control. And doing that until you're good at it takes practice. I mean, practicing the specific move, going from that branch to that insect in 12 inches and being in focus at both places. You practice that before you turn on the camera and shoot it. So when a 10-second piece of video takes you 15 minutes to get perfect, it turns into a long day, especially for those of us that are new at it. So allow enough time and allow your actual recording time, which will be after your practice time is up. Make sure that coincides with the best light, if that's what you're looking for. Did that make sense? I'm saying if you're going to go out for the afternoon and you really are hoping to get good light, then spend the first couple of hours making sure everything's set up, getting practice shots, practicing the moves, and then when the good light rolls in, bang, 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 shoot your scenes. And we'll talk about how you're going to do that in just a minute. You have to be patient, and sometimes you have to wait for the light to get better if you're shooting in natural light, but that's no different than it is with photography. Here's something that is totally different from anything you've probably ever done in photography, and that is storyboarding and planning your shoot. In this case, let's say you're going out to shoot footage for your competition entry, and you have a good idea what your entry is going to be like. You've already thought through it. Commit to paper what those individual scenes look like, and understand that time expands when you're doing stuff like this. What seems like a minuscule amount of time, 3 seconds, can become a lifetime when that's the 3 seconds when you're moving the camera. So plan how you're going to spend those seconds. Know by looking at a piece of paper what each scene is going to lead to. If the first scene is catching the dragonfly hovering over the pond, Okay, that's going to take you a certain amount of time and certain equipment to get that shot. If your next shot in the final video is going to be a dragonfly eating something on its perch, then it doesn't matter when you shoot that. You're going to edit it into the video in the second part. But where you're going to actually shoot it to get the best light, best lighting conditions, weather conditions, whatever, is going to be on your storyboard. So you may do all of the water-related shots together. You get what I'm saying here. If you have like a menu of things that you need to get, you won't forget them. If you just go out there to see what you can get and then put it together afterwards, you'll always end up with gaps in your narrative. So put it on paper, even draw it out. If you know where you're going, you've got a good idea for what the scene needs to look like, draw it out so you remember when you look at it when you're out there that you want that fountain thing behind the second scene, so you know where to go to set up. It sounds ridiculous, doesn't it, that you'd have to make notes about each of these things. But if you don't, if you're like me, you'll get out there, you'll get distracted, you'll see something that's better than what you wrote down, and you'll end up shooting it and it'll be rubbish, and you won't have got the shot you went for. So make a plan and follow it. We call it a storyboard, but it's a shot list is the same thing. And the more detail, the easier it'll be to follow. Okay? And thinking about storyboarding involves thinking about your composition. There is so much to composition in video that isn't really a factor in still photography to nearly the same extent. But when you are controlling depth of field and out of focus areas and illumination in those areas, you are walking and chewing gum and typing your dissertation all at the same time. And planning helps. Think about the environment that you're working in, and it's very easy to get a little bit overwhelmed by all the things you've got to think about and kind of trashing where you are, stomping all over stuff. Be careful when you're out there. Be respectful of the animals and plants and the other people that are enjoying the outside. And really, seriously, try to leave the place better than when you got there. Because one day you're going to be going back, and you want the people that came after you this time to do the same thing for you. Be aware of safety. I have to say this: if you're going to be out shooting video in brambles all day long down here, you take a snake bite kit with you. You're going to get bitten eventually. There are a lot of snakes down here in the brambles, so carry the appropriate safety equipment. If you're going to be off the beaten path, take your phone or whatever and let people know where you're going. All the same stuff you'd do for shooting in the wild. Be ready and practiced at adapting to situations. Some of the best video I ever shot was when I got caught in a downpour and ended up taking shelter in a refuge, a hut thing with a roof on it that had spiders in it. I ended up shooting spiders all afternoon, even after the rain stopped. So be ready to adapt when situations kill your plans, and have a backup plan. Yeah, know what you're going to do if you get to your spot and there are 500 people there having picnics because you forgot it was some holiday or other. So it's a good idea to have a contingency plan. One last thing I'd say that is very important in planning is planning how you're going to manage the data that shooting video brings you. It is hard to shoot. Well, I can give you an example. A video that I shoot for you guys, a tutorial video with several different camera angles and what have you, it may, by the time it goes up to YouTube, be 10 gigabytes if it's a 40-minute video. but my file that has all of the footage and the stills and all the media that went into that 40-minute video may be 3 times that size. So you really need to have cards with the capacity to hold that amount of data. You need to have a drive that you can put it on. You need to have a computer that can handle it. Or you need to be very selective about what you shoot. But think about it ahead of time. Data is no getting around it. There isn't a way to shoot 1080p that isn't 1080. I mean, it just is, it's a lot of data. So think about all of those things, and I will try. I'm not going to promise it'll be in the next week, but I'm going to try to put together a video checklist, at least by the time we have the rig built. I am going to stop talking there and get to the questions and answer as many of those as I possibly can in the last remaining minutes. Julie figured out green screen technique for video editing and is quite impressed with this for the video. Yes, we haven't talked about green screen. It is definitely a chroma keying in general, using light to isolate your subject and give you a clean background to do with as you will, a canvas type of situation, is a great technique. Generally, I don't use green screen because what I'm usually shooting is green, so it's a lot easier to use blue screen or something like that. But there are other ways to chroma key, and we'll do one of our live streams. We'll touch on that, or possibly a video in the technique video. We'll see. But good point. Paul Daly says he has a 20-year-old Manfrotto, no model number anywhere. Any idea where I can find a shorter central post for ground close setups? Yeah, let me show you something that may help. Hang on. Sorry about that. I don't know if Manfrotto has a tripod that does this, but the reason I bought this particular tripod, and this one is by a company called ProMaster. I got it because it had all the bells and whistles of a more expensive one, but it was only like $400. But the center post separates into two, and I know several of the nicer tripods will do this, like so. And that saves you from having to buy a whole new tripod or get something with a cross arm. And of course, the other technique is simply with your old Manfrotto, is take the center post out and put it in from the bottom. I'll try to do this in just 2 seconds. Remove this, oh no, you've got to remove the screw thing on the bottom. Remove it from the top and stick it in the bottom, and they're made so that they will tighten down exactly. I'll never see that again because it went under the desk into the no man's zone. If you put this under like so, you can now suspend your camera from the tripod, and this will work in exactly the same way, only upside down. This is what Robert Thompson does a lot. This is what I do for macro as well. So there you go. That's one way you can do it. Good question, Paul. Thanks. And you can get all the way to scraping the ground with that. Art Wagner. Sorry, Alan, late with this question on lighting. What type of lighting with your microscope LED or halogen, and does it make a difference if still, photo, or video? What type of lighting with the microscope LED? With the microscope, period. LED or halogen. I use LED. I don't use halogen for anything because of the heat. With small subjects, and I'm working with tiny things with wings, the amount of heat that any halogen light puts off tends to curl the wings and create air currents around it. I used cool running LEDs. I have an LED light ring on the microscope, and I have two RM75s, which I use from the sides when I need more light to video through the microscope. And videoing through your microscope is absolutely a cool technique for the competition. I'm not gonna throw anything out of the competition. I mean, I just want to see what you guys can do. I'm just giving you these guidelines to make it easier for me. Okay, let me see. Was that all the questions? I think it was. So that's good. Any way that you can get down close to the ground and be stable is going to work. Bean bags we talked about the other night, they work. I made my own, cheap as all get out, and it works perfectly well. You're going to want a little more control than that. And something I said the other night, and I'll say it again now because it's important. I know a lot of you love geared heads like I do. My tripod is a geared head tripod, 3-way. It's a Benro. I love the tripod head, but it is the worst choice for video. It simply is unusable. You're much better off with a ball head. With a ball head like this, even though it's only a two-way ball head, I can loosen it up and move the camera in one axis like so. But with the geared head, you really can't do that. I mean, you're moving it in little jerks and it just wobbles and looks terrible. So a fluid head is the way to go. Oh look, I happen to have a ball head on the desk. So this would be a poor second choice, but it would still be better than using a geared head. You can just loosen it up, and if you don't loosen it too much, you can get enough freedom of movement, but it's just not fluid. It's not fluid because the ball is rougher in spots than others, so it doesn't move smoothly. Move smoothly. You can feel the difference with a decent fluid head. It's smooth as butter, and the transitions look fantastic. Okay, Joseph would like to know what geared head you use. Benro, it's the GD3WH. 3-way head. GD, what does that stand for? That's not rude. GD3, geared, GD3WH by Benro. I'm not going to try to figure out what those letters actually mean. I saw the best looking tripod head I've ever seen, and it's going to be on my target list to one day add. I can't remember who makes the darn thing. It was I was looking through. I was looking on the internet for a different type of tripod head for a different thing, and came across this one. It's so beautiful. You got to see it, but I can't remember who makes it. I think Tilta. You ever heard of them? The Tilta G4. Look that up. I think that's Tilta. I think that's the right name. If it is, that is an incredible looking tripod head. Okay, we're out of time. It is 3:01 p.m. I haven't decided exactly what's going to come up next as far as live streams go. This is a fluid month. You remember that Mr. Lee is going to come talk to us at some point. I didn't get a chance to ask Laowa when they were here on Tuesday. They came and visited for the live stream, but hopefully that will be soon, and we'll get that done. And then there are several other things in the works, but as long as there is interest, I want to keep moving on the video stuff, because it gets more interesting from here on when we talk about technique, and we'll try and do some demo stuff as well. So if that sounds interesting, join me for the live stream next week, Pazoom on Saturday, and there will be a video coming out in about 10 minutes. Seriously. And that will be the photo competition results. Congratulations to everybody who was a finalist or a honorable mention, an honorable mention, or an honorable mention. They're the three categories. It's confusing, I know. But yeah, especially to the winners. Fantastic pictures. And Robert, I couldn't say your name because you might be on that list somewhere. So we'll have to see. Wait for the video to come out. It'll be out shortly. Okay, guys, I'm out of here and going to take some pictures now. So I will see you in a few days. Take care, and thank you, Alistair, Amy, Bud. Appreciate your help, as always. And if I've forgotten a thing, I'm sorry. Catch you next time.